The air was unnaturally still that evening, the kind of stillness that feels like the world is holding its breath before something breaks. A single porch light glowed over my front door, painting long shadows across the yard where my dog, Ranger, trotted lazily among the leaves. His collar jingled, rhythmic and familiar, the sound that told me everything in my small corner of Cedar Ridge was okay. At least that's what I thought. I'd moved here for peace. After a decade in the Marines and 2 tours overseas, I wanted silence, the kind that comes with pine trees, distant crickets, and a home you built with your own hands. Cedar Ridge had seemed perfect, a small gated community tucked outside Raleigh, North Carolina. But what no real estate agent ever tells you is that behind every white picket fence and manicured lawn, there's always someone watching. And in Cedar Ridge, that someone was Karen Duvall, president of the Homeowners Association. Retired real estate agent, self-proclaimed guardian of the neighborhood's image. The kind of woman who treated the HOA handbook like a holy text, and everyone else like sinners. The war I'd fought overseas had rules. The one about to unfold in my own neighborhood. Didn't it start small, like most wars do, a warning letter in my mailbox. Your lawn exceeds community grass height standards. Then another, unauthorized structure, dog kennel visible from the street, Ranger's kennel. The same kennel I'd built by hand right next to the house so I could see him from the kitchen window. I ignored the first few notes, figuring Karen would get bored once she realized I wasn't the type to tremble over an HOA fine. But she didn't get bored. She escalated. She called animal control twice. They showed up, apologized, left. She filed a complaint about aggressive barking. Then she started walking her tiny white poodle. Princess directly passed my gate every evening. Smirking as Ranger growled behind the fence, I could handle harassment. What I couldn't handle was someone targeting my dog. Then came that night, the one that burned itself into memory like shrapnel. It was late October, right before Halloween. The moon was swollen and pale, and the power had flickered out across the block after a transformer surge. The street was pitch black except for a few candles glowing through living room windows. I was sitting in my den with a flashlight, a half-empty bottle of bourbon, and a maintenance manual spread open on the coffee table when Ranger started barking. Not his usual bark. This one had an edge, a low, guttural growl that said someone's here. I grabbed my maglite and stepped to the window. Through the glass, I caught the faintest movement near the back fence, a flicker of white fabric slipping through the shadows. I killed the flashlight and listened. My house creaked. Ranger barked again, furious now, chains rattling against the gate. Then came a sound that froze me solid, the back door latch clicking open. I didn't think. I moved, old instincts kicked in, quiet steps, controlled breathing, heart hammering in rhythm with each silent stride. The kitchen was dark except for the dim blue glow of the digital clock. I eased around the corner just in time to see a silhouette crouched near Ranger's food bowl, gloved hands. A jar in one of them, something being sprinkled into the dish. Freeze! The figure jerked upright, spinning toward me. The flashlight beam hit her full in the face. Karen Duvall, her mouth hanging open in shock, her lipstick smeared at the corners. John Miller. I was just... Put the jar down. Her hands trembled, but she obeyed. The label was half torn, but the word rat poison was unmistakable. For a long moment, the only sound was Ranger barking from outside, clawing at the screen door, desperate to reach me. I stepped closer, my voice low. You broke into my house, Karen. I was just trying to keep your dog from scaring people. He's dangerous. He could bite someone. Ranger's never bitten anyone, but you just tried to kill him. She took a shaky step back, eyes darting toward the open door. I could see her thinking, calculating. What story she could spin to the board, how she'd twist this to make me the villain. Let me go, John, she said finally. We can forget this. I'll pay for any... No, I picked up my phone. You're not going anywhere. But the power came back on right then. Lights flickered, the refrigerator hummed, and Karen bolted. She shoved past me, sprinting through the open door and vanishing into the dark yard before I could catch her. Ranger barked himself hoarse. I stood there watching the night swallow her, my pulse thundering in my ears. When I checked the security system, the cameras had been disabled. The wires, cut clean, she'd planned it. The next morning, I found a note taped to my front door. Typed, unsigned, but I knew the tone too well. "We all make mistakes, John. Let's keep this between us. For the sake of the neighborhood." I stared at that note for a long time, feeling the slow, familiar rise of something I hadn't felt in years, not since Afghanistan. Not fear, resolve. Karen Duvall thought she could poison my dog and walk away. She didn't know it yet, but she'd just declared war. Sleep didn't come that night. I sat at the kitchen table with Ranger lying across my boots, his tail occasionally thumping against the tile, as if to remind me he was still there, still alive. Every creak of the house felt amplified. Every distant bark echoed like a threat. The clock hit 3:17 a.m. before I finally got up and opened my laptop. I wasn't going to the police, not yet. I'd seen what Karen could do with words and influence. She ran the HOA like a miniature regime, and the local sheriff's office had a habit of letting things cool down when it came to neighborhood disputes. No. If I was going to end this, I needed proof, and proof was something I knew how to get. By dawn, I'd replaced every security camera in and around the house with new wireless models, hidden where even a paranoid HOA president wouldn't look. 2 in the backyard, 1 under the porch light, another inside the kennel. I even wired a miniature camera inside the fake birdhouse by the fence, my eyes in the sky. Ranger followed me the whole time, curious but calm, as if he sensed this was no longer about barking at squirrels. That afternoon, I took him for a long walk through Cedar Ridge. People nodded and smiled, neighbors pretending they didn't notice the tension crackling beneath the surface. But I noticed something else. Karen's blinds were half open, and through them, she was watching. Her face was pale, her hair pulled tight like always, but her eyes were restless. She knew I'd seen her. Good. The following days were quiet. Too quiet. No letters. No HOA reminders. Not even Princess barking during her usual evening walks. I figured she was either scared or scheming. Both, maybe. But on the 5th night, around 2 a.m., Ranger started whining at the back door. Not barking, whining, low and urgent. I turned on the monitor feed from the kennel camera and froze. A shadow moved near the fence again. Same spot. Same deliberate motion. Only this time it wasn't Karen. It was a man. Broad shoulders, dark hoodie, moving like someone who'd done this before. He reached the latch of the kennel gate, crouched, and pulled something from his pocket. A small plastic bag. I zoomed in. Dog treats laced. That's when I hit record. 10 minutes later, I was outside, silent, crouched behind my truck with the flashlight off and my phone camera rolling. The man glanced around once more, tossed a handful of the tainted treats into Ranger's bowl, and started to climb back over the fence. "Evening?" I said. He froze. The beam of my flashlight caught his face mid-turn, maybe late 30s, scruffy beard, eyes sharp but surprised. "Who the hell are you?" I asked. He hesitated. Just walking through, man. Sorry, wrong yard. Try again." I stepped closer, keeping my voice calm but firm. He backed up, hands raised slightly, realizing too late that the gate he'd entered through had swung shut behind him. "I don't want trouble," he muttered. "Then tell me who sent you." He hesitated, swallowing hard. "Lady named Karen, said the dog bit her kid. Just wanted me to poison him," I finished for him. His silence confirmed it. I kept the camera trained on him as I pulled my phone out with my free hand and dialed the sheriff's office. This time, I didn't care how small the town was. I had evidence. The deputy showed up 20 minutes later, lights flashing soft red across the pines. I handed over the video, the jar from the first break-in, and the bag of laced treats. The man was arrested on the spot, but Karen wasn't. The next morning, she was already outside when I stepped onto my porch, wearing a floral blouse, holding Princess's leash, pretending the flashing lights from the night before hadn't happened. "Good morning, John," she said sweetly, voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed. I heard there was some excitement last night. Such a shame. This neighborhood used to be so peaceful. Don't start, Karen. She tilted her head. Oh, I'm not starting anything. But if people around here think your dog attracts that kind of element, maybe the board should revisit your membership status. I laughed, low, bitter. You really don't get it, do you? Her smile faltered. Karen, I have footage of you in my house with poison. Her face drained of color. That's a lie. I'd say the sheriff can decide that. For a second, she looked like she might faint. Then she straightened, forcing composure back into her voice. If you show that to anyone, I'll sue you for harassment and defamation. You think the board will believe you, a drunk ex-Marine, over me? That hit harder than I wanted to admit. She'd done her homework. She knew I'd been discharged with commendations, but came back carrying scars I didn't talk about. She was betting the community would see me as unstable. Try me, I said quietly. But remember something, I don't quit, Karen, not when someone comes after what's mine. Her smile cracked. For the first time, I saw fear, real fear. The next few weeks were a blur of hearings, letters, and official nonsense. Karen's lawyer tried to bury the complaint, arguing I had harassed a respected community member. But the sheriff's office didn't buy it once they reviewed the footage. The man she'd hired, name was Greg Tate, a handyman she'd used for HOA maintenance. He confessed within days, naming her directly. When they brought her in for questioning, she denied everything. Claimed I'd fabricated the video. Claimed Greg was lying for a payout. But evidence is a stubborn thing. The prosecutors built the case slowly, methodically, and while they did, I made sure Cedar Ridge knew the truth. Not with shouting or flyers or gossip, but with silence. I walked my dog every morning, head high, calm. And every door that used to slam when I passed stayed open just a little longer. By Christmas, the HOA had voted to remove her from the board. Karen Duvall's kingdom was crumbling. The last time I saw her before the trial was a cold January morning. I was leaving for work when I spotted her standing by the mailbox, wrapped in a long gray coat. She looked smaller somehow, like the wind might blow her away. John, she called out softly. I stopped. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted things quiet again. I studied her for a long moment. You could have knocked on my door, Karen. We could have talked. Her eyes filled with something, guilt maybe, or realization. I know, she whispered. But people like me don't talk. We control. Then she walked away, heels clicking against the frosted sidewalk, her figure fading into the cold morning light. That night, I poured a drink, sat beside Ranger, and watched him sleep, his chest rising steady, unbothered by the storm we'd survived. The war was almost over, but something told me the final battle hadn't yet begun. Winter settled over Cedar Ridge like a silence too heavy to bear. Snow gathered on the rooftops, muffling the world, making everything look clean. Too clean. But underneath that layer of white was rot, the kind that people like Karen Duvall had planted long before I ever moved here. It had been 2 months since the arrest. Karen was out on bail, awaiting trial, and though her empire had collapsed, her position gone, her reputation in ashes, she was still dangerous. Some people can't survive without control, and when they lose it, they burn everything around them trying to get it back. That's what worried me, not the law. Not the case. I started noticing the small things first. A dead crow on my porch. Tire tracks in the mud behind my fence where no one ever drove. One morning, all my trash bins were knocked over, lids shattered, the kind of petty sabotage that carried her signature. But when I mentioned it to the sheriff, they said, could be kids. Or raccoons, maybe, but I knew better. Ranger knew too. He'd started sleeping lighter, waking at every noise, watching the door like it was his post in a battlefield. Then came the letter. A simple white envelope in my mailbox, no return address. I opened it standing right there on the curb. You took everything from me. I just want you to know what that feels like. No signature. Just those words typed on plain paper and a photo tucked behind them. A photo of Ranger taken through my living room window. I installed even more cameras. Motion lights. a reinforced lock system. But the fear wasn't for me. It was for him. Every morning I checked his food. Every night I walked the perimeter like I used to in Kabul, methodical and restless. The snow reflected the floodlights in eerie blues and whites, and every shadow looked like it could move. One night, while reviewing the camera feed, I saw it. A figure near the back fence again. Shorter this time. Moving slower, Karen. She crept toward the kennel with something clutched to her chest, a small box wrapped in a towel. I watched her kneel and set it beside the gate, her breath fogging in the cold. Then she just stood there, staring at Ranger through the mesh, whispering something I couldn't hear. I stepped out into the yard, phone recording in my hand. Karen! She froze like a deer in headlights. When she turned, her face was pale, drawn, but not angry. Just empty. I came to apologize, she said. I didn't move closer. You do that by breaking into my yard again? She shook her head, tears glinting in the porch light. I just wanted to give him this. She nudged the box with her foot. Homemade treats. Not poisoned, I swear. I stared at her, unsure whether to believe the tremor in her voice. You think that erases what you did? Her lip quivered. No, nothing does. My husband left. My son won't talk to me. The HOA, they spit when they hear my name. You got what you wanted, I swallowed hard. I never wanted this. I just wanted my peace. Her eyes lifted to mine, hollow, desperate. You don't understand. That dog reminded me of the one my father used to hit me with when I was a kid. Every time he barked, I heard that sound again. I wanted it to stop. I thought if I could make him disappear, I'd finally have quiet. The words hit me sideways, the kind of confession you don't expect in the freezing dark. I took a slow breath. You should tell that to the judge, Karen, not me, she nodded weakly. Maybe I will. Then she turned, walked toward the fence, and disappeared into the night, leaving the box sitting in the snow. I never opened it. The trial came a month later. The courtroom was packed. Small-town gossip doesn't die easy. Karen looked nothing like the queen of the HOA anymore. Her once perfect hair was dull and flat, her clothes plain. She avoided my eyes as the prosecutor laid out everything. The footage, the confession, the note, the hired hit. When they played the video of her inside my kitchen, pouring poison into Ranger's food, the room went silent except for the sound of her quiet sobbing. Her attorney didn't argue innocence anymore, just asked for leniency, saying she'd suffered enough. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it short. I don't want revenge, I said, my voice steady. I just want her to understand what it means to destroy something loyal, something innocent. I served overseas. I've seen people do evil things in the name of order, control, fear. What she did came from the same place. Karen covered her face and cried. The judge sentenced her to 2 years, suspended after 12 months, with mandatory therapy and community service. Some people in town said it was too light. Maybe it was. But for her, it was the end of everything she'd built, and for me, it was enough. Months passed. Spring crept into Cedar Ridge again, soft and slow. The snow melted, the air filled with the hum of sprinklers and the faint smell of cut grass. The neighborhood changed, too. People nodded more. Stopped by the fence to say hello to Ranger. A new family moved into Karen's old house. Nice folks. 2 kids who liked to toss him tennis balls through the gate. Sometimes, late at night, I'd stand on the porch with a beer and listen. No barking, no shouting, no threats. Just peace. But I still thought about her, about how far a person can fall when they mistake control for safety, order for peace. I heard she'd taken a job at an animal shelter after her release, cleaning kennels, feeding dogs. Irony's a strange kind of justice. One afternoon, a letter arrived. No return address again, but I recognized the careful, looping handwriting. I'm sorry for everything. I feed them now, the ones like Ranger. I think they forgive faster than people do. Take care of him, John. He's a good dog. KDI folded the letter, slipped it into the drawer beside my bed, and called Ranger over. He wagged his tail, ears perked, waiting for the usual pat. You're famous now, buddy, I said with a laugh. Guess we both survived the war. He barked once, sharp and happy, before curling up at my feet. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, calm, easy, alive. For the first time since moving to Cedar Ridge, the world felt right again. Not perfect, but peaceful. And peace, I'd learned, was something worth defending, no matter what it costs.